Jim McKean, former MLB umpire and MLB umpire supervisor, our go-to guy the 3 times a year that something like this comes up. I'm just kidding about that. Jim, I did want to ask you about just in a general sense. I mean, especially now with social media being what it is, and the way the game is consumed, and 24-hour news channels and all that. How hard is it for umpires to block out chatter like this? I mean, these guys are smart enough, and I don't know if they read it. I'm sure they probably heard it someplace. Do you ever really get completely comfortable blocking that stuff out? Because these guys are human beings.
Well, you definitely read about it. I mean, your friends will call you. They'll tell you right away how bad you were. This happens all the time. But I will tell you guys, the scrutinization on umpires now is unbelievable. I mean, they have their own Z system where they look at balls and strikes. They'll look at every pitch in every game, in every inning. And MLB has their own Z system, which is much more accurate than one you see on TV. So if there was anything that went on at all, they'd have verification of it. Plus, your general manager and your manager can call MLB anytime. They will look at any pitch, explain it to them why it was called, if it was missed. So, everything's on the up and up. I just want to know where Jose came up with the word vague circumstances. Mm-hmm. I mean, who told him about that one? Because he didn't come up with that, that's for sure. Jim, he's not that smart, I guarantee you. Well, and if he's your spokesperson for the Toronto Blue Jays, you guys are in trouble.
Well, he is. I will say he's pretty darn smart, but I sense, Jim, that you are voicing a sentiment that would be common within the umpiring fraternity.
Well, of course. I mean, that's normal. And I look at your 3 top hitters right here, Donaldson, Encarnacion, and Tulowitzki, and nobody's saying a word. And Russ Martin, the guy who caught the game, is sort of, praising the umpires, Les Diaz. No, we're not perfect. We're not going to get every pitch. But, it's because your team's not hitting. If you look at the number of runs that are scored in the playoffs, in both divisions, there's none. Mm-hmm. There was one grand slam, and that turned that game around. And that happened to be in the 8th inning, or whatever it was. But last night, the Cubs get beat 1-0. There was a number of pitches that they could have looked at. But I'm sure today when you read it, you won't hear about the umpires. And the other thing that I'm not sure that we used to do is we used to cross. In other words, the umpires that worked your series now will head out to L.A., and their umpires will come in here. I'm not sure if they're still doing that. There was a reason because of the travel distance. It was just easier on the umpires. But I think that this whole thing is totally bogus. I mean, I can't believe it. Do you really think that umpires go out there and say, well, geez, I'm going to miss this pitch on purpose and, I'm going to get this pitch right? The game, it's too hard to do that. You can't do that. It's impossible. Plus, as you guys say, the scrutinization is tremendous. The social media, it's all media-driven. He gets out there and he says something like that, and the media just runs with it, and that's the way it is. We sort of expect it, but if MLB suspected anything, if the Toronto Blue Jays suspected anything, the general manager, the president, the manager, they'd be all getting hold of MLB to find out what they think is wrong.
What would happen in that case, Jim? Because, of course, we would never hear about any of that. But so what would actually take place?
Well, I don't really know because I don't think it's ever really occurred. Now, they will say, if a play is missed, if a balk is missed, if something is missed, or a pitch is missed. So right now, the only thing you can complain about is a pitch because everything else is under instant replay. Mm-hmm. So there's really nothing to complain about except pitches. And I'm not being smart, but I've watched Bautista's at bat. He's swinging the balls that aren't even in the park, over his head, outside, in the dirt, all over the place. He's swinging at everything. And I don't even think if he thinks this is against him or what it is. But again, he's got a little bit of a reputation going. And that's just the way it is. Some guys are like that, some guys aren't. But he's not a good spokesperson for the Blue Jays right now, I don't think, anyway.
You think you need somebody a little more, a little less likely to make it about the umpires?
If Russ Martin came out and said, geez, the umpiring was atrocious, yeah, then you say, well, geez, I better look at this darn thing.
Right.
But, your best hitters aren't saying anything because they're hitting. And he's not hitting, so he's going to come up with something. And this vague circumstances, that's beautiful.